Okay, let us start with our chalice light.
Oh, can you hear?
Okay. May the light we now kindle
Kindle.
inspire us to use our powers to heal and not to harm, to help and not to hinder, to bless and not to curse, to serve you, Spirit of freedom. And we have some opening words this morning from Elizabeth Mount. From our very first breath, we reach out. Co-regulation, not self-regulation, is in our nature. We find our cues from the sun and the moon, from each parent and caregiver. We find our place in this great turning planet by turning to one another. Generation to generation, we awaken to the dawn and fall asleep at the evening's end. Our life's journey is part of something greater, something simple, something divine. A flame cannot be lit without a spark. A life cannot begin without the air. And we cannot begin to find ourselves without love. May we reach out to one another. May we offer love and nurturing care. May we join together in the celebration of interdependence of our lives. In this spirit, let us worship together. And let's start with hymn number 32. Now we all thank our God.
Okay.
Is that the one that you planned?
Huh?
Isn't that the one you planned?
11 first.
Oh, 11. Okay, I'm sorry.
Hi, Stony.
Let's do 11. Oh, I've got two border collies here. I hope they're not being disruptive. Tony and Scott. Okay, number 11. Oh, God of stars and sunlight.
Oh, God of stars and sunlight, whose winds lift up a bird. In marching wave and leaf fall, we hear thy patient word. Like rain upon the treetops, we know thy moving hands. O God of cloud and mountain, O God of root and shading,
And I did put in a responsive reading. It's number 669, which is in the back of your hymnal, otherwise called Psalm 1. It's very short. Blessed are the man and the woman who have grown beyond their greed. But they delight in the way things are and keep their hearts open day and night. Their leaves will not fall or wither. Okay, each week we come into this church bearing the joys and concerns of daily life. At this time, we'd like to share some of the significant events that have happened this past week. So please come up, take the mic, and tell us about your joys or your sorrows, and light a candle for yourself and those around us who share your feelings. Who would like to start us off?
It's a joy to see you all. Meg. Well, yesterday I went to see the movie that's out there called Sinners, which is a horror movie, okay? Just to warn you. But I wanted to see Haley, Josh Allen's wife, you know, being a Buffalo fan, of course. But not just that, because it was like a film with, with all kinds of people in it, of all kinds of colors and cultures, which was kind of cool. But on the way home, I was a little bit frightened and I got an fender bender. But by the grace of the higher power, it was only a nick. He was a nice guy, and let it go. So I wanted to, share that joy. And I'm looking forward to, after potluck, I'm going to visit the Fatima Shrine. I've never been there. It looks like it's very beautiful from the pictures I've got on the brochure. So just want to share that joy. Thank you.
It should be a perfect day for it.
Shrine as well, Terry Tawitha. Yeah, it's not right close to the actual building itself. It's kind of off on the, yeah, it's beautiful.
Do we have any other joys and concerns? I see we do. We have a Yankees fan. We need to have the mic on so we can hear. I'm not hearing anything.
Okay, can you hear me now? Yeah, I think it was 2 Mondays ago. I went to a hospital, get some tests taken, and the plan was to replace a valve about a month later. But there was a cancellation, which they said was unusual, so I took it. So I had the valve replaced last Thursday. Yeah.
Wow, and you're doing great, up and around.
No, 2 Thursdays ago. Anyway, everything went fine. They put a pacemaker in too. But I have no symptoms at all. The only time I had the symptoms when I was out of breath climbing 150 steps. And so Tuesday I go back to the hospital there, and I'm hoping they'll let me do after Tuesday whatever I want to do. Okay.
So yesterday I went to a No Kings protest in Williamsville. It actually was really well attended. And most of the people were really, really wonderful. I did have a little issue with somebody who, when I went back to my car, there was a pickup truck with a Trump flag and an American flag on it. And I had gone down there, I printed out a picture of my dad in his uniform from World War II with his Purple Heart. And I had it pinned to my back, and I was carrying his flag folded up. And I had a lot of people who came in. One guy wanted to take a picture of my dad and everything. And a lot of people who were really moved by the fact that, you know, I was there trying to represent my dad, because on January 6th, when I talked to him, he was in tears and said he never thought he would see something like this happen in his country. So when I was going back to my car, this guy was parked next to me in this pickup truck with his Trump sign and his American flag on the other side. And I just stopped and you know, told him about my dad, and I asked him if he'd ever served, and he said no, but his dad did. His dad served in Korea, and I just said, oh, you know, I told him that my dad was really upset on January 6th, and he said, well, Trump didn't send those people down there. And I said, well, but he didn't stop them, and he also pardoned them all. And he got a little upset with me, and I said, well, you know, what would your dad think? You know, and he said, my dad was a Democrat. like it was an epithet. And I said, oh, so he probably wouldn't have been very happy. And he just said, I used to be a Democrat until Obama got elected, and then I became a Republican. And that was kind of he told me to get in my car. Get in your car, you liberal. And I said, I will, you conservative. And that was the end of our discussion. So I'd like to light a candle for this guy, because I think he needs it.
Good story.
Okay, yeah, mine's a joy. I've been busy all week long, and yeah, probably better change the sign outside too. We need something different. I hired my aunt to be with my parents longer this past week, so I was home in the area, and I've been cleaning my house. I mean, major spring cleaning. I'm talking about the ceilings. To the lights, all the way down to the walls. I cleaned all the furniture. I put everything to the side of the room. I cleaned the wood floors really good and washed them. When that got dry, I polyurethane one side, and I put all the furniture. After that dried, I put, anyways, I did it to 5 rooms in a hallway.
Wow.
In 6 days. What if last year, or 3 years ago was the last time I did this. I think it took me like 8 days, something like that. But it's probably my experience at the school cleaning. So anyways, it just feels good to be done with that and have a nice, beautiful house now. During coffee hour, maybe I'll show some of the pictures.
Sounds great. What I want to know is when you're coming to Cleveland to help me with my house. I do love that feeling of having everything in order. Never lasts for long at my house. It's nice to do it.
You're not the only one asking that question.
I'm sure. I'm not.
I'm Kitty Pierce. I turned down an invitation to go with a group to Buffalo to the big No Kings rally there, thinking it was just too arduous to go to some huge parking lot and then go to a bus and so on. And I was sort of discouraged, but then I discovered that there was a No Frills in Niagara Falls, a No King in Niagara Falls, right at the Social Security office yesterday. So I went there. We were a small but ardent and lovely group. and there's so much traffic right there on Niagara Falls Boulevard. I was amazed that every vehicle that made noises was in our favor. I was wondering how many people would be shouting insults. There weren't any, and it was very nice. Just want to light a candle for other people who may not have been able to get to a No Kings.
This is Linda. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I just wanted to express a joy and a sorrow. The sorrow is about 10 days ago, I was taken to the hospital by ambulance because my heartbeat was running fast. It was a normal rhythm, it wasn't AFib. But when they checked my blood pressure, it was about 200 over 195.
Oh my gosh.
So they brought me in, they gave me some medication, they did a bunch of tests in the ER, and finally they sent me home when my blood pressure had dropped to about 140 over 100. No, actually, I'm sorry, it was about 160 over 100. But they didn't have any real explanation for what was wrong, and they didn't choose to admit me. So the super high blood pressure, despite having all my medications anyway, is my sorrow. My joy is that it did not give me a stroke.
Yes.
So it eventually went back to normal, but it was scary and unexplained, and therefore could happen again. But that's my joy and my sorrow for today.
Well, I'm glad for the joy that it worked out for now, and let's hope it never happens again.
Yes.
Do we have any more joys and sorrows?
Is it on? Okay. When I was in 1980, I went to Austria for 2 months to stay in Graz. Does the name sound familiar? This week in the news, Graz had a school shooting, and a 21-year-old man came in and took 9 people's lives on his own. And I remember when I went to Austria, they were asking me about that, how America, do we all have guns in the classroom? And there was, some misconceptions about how guns, it was all the Wild West, so to speak. And my sister and my nephew are traveling to Europe on June 2nd, I think, or July 2nd for a couple of weeks. And I text, I sent her a text. She didn't say anything back. She's not like kind of more of an activist like I am. But that's neither here nor there. But that was a sorrow. I reached out to my cousin. She lives in London now, though, but she did live in Austria when I was there. And I'm also of concern of the Israeli-Iran conflict. My father's Iranian, so I do have, roots in that area of the world. He lives now in LA. We nearly are, estranged, so to speak, but just wanted to bring those 2 things up. Thank you.
Okay, do we have any more joys and concerns? Okay, maybe someone could light one last candle for all of our unspoken joys and concerns. And we will move on to the offertory. Thanks, Bill. Weekly offering honors the efforts we all make to keep the doors of their church open.
Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the winds, rise in the sea, move in the land. Roots hold me close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to
We have a meditation reading this morning by Lorraine Motorruff McNeil called Empowering the Fathers of This World. Today is Father's Day, a day in which we honor and offer gratitude for our fathers in whatever form or fashion they come into our lives. Biological fathers, stepfathers, adopted fathers, and foster fathers, grandfathers, spiritual fathers, and all of the uncles, brothers, and friends who, whether they know it or not, have helped to fill the role of father in someone's life. We are shaped by their presence and their absence, by how they choose to act and how they abstain, what they say, and when they remain silent. Let us remember today and always the impact that these people have on us as individuals and as a community. And let us also remember that this relationship is not one-sided and that we, as a community, are called to support and empower the fathers of this world, no matter how they came into their roles and regardless of their relative successes or failures. Let us raise up their triumphs and let us have the grace to forgive them all of their too human failures. Let us love our fathers and each other. Come, let us worship. And let's take a moment of silent meditation before we start the sermon. First of all, let's wish a happy Father's Day to all of the fathers present, including anyone who has ever in their life been there as a father figure for a child or youth. Whatever support you've been able to provide has been valuable, believe me. When I told my friend Fran about the topic for this sermon, she said to me, "Yes, dads are different these days." She told me she was so surprised when her son-in-law brought the newborn Emmy over for her to babysit for the first time, and she complimented him on how well he had packed Emmy's diaper bag. He got a little bristly. "I'm her dad," he said. "Of course I know how to pack a diaper bag." My son Seth can do the same thing. I will say that the moms generally look at the outfits that the dads have picked, and they have a little chuckle when they see the child later. But it's not the choosing of the outfit that counts here, right? Today, I thought we'd take a look at how fatherhood has changed over the decades and generations and talk about the role of these new age fathers, which has expanded considerably. My own father became a dad at the age of 27, 7 years after the end of the Second World War. He was the oldest of 7 children in a fairly poor family in a small town in England. His birth was followed by a set of girl twins, another sister, another set of girl twins, and a brother. Can you imagine 2 sets of identical twins? As the oldest, I'm sure he came to fatherhood with more childcare experience than my mother, who was a middle child in a rather affluent family where the little ones were cared for by a nanny. My dad helped out as much as he could when my sister and I were infants, but he did have to work full time, and my mom stayed at home with us at least until we were ages 6 and 8. At that point, my dad had an accident at work. He was a machinist, and it was 18 months before he was able to return to his job, so my mom did go back to work. Dad was a pretty handy guy, so he was always the one to look after the yard and the car and fix things around the house. And when mom was working, he cooked and tidied up as much as he could. He was a little new age in that department. None of the other fathers in the neighborhood cooked or cleaned. But then it was the late 50s and the early 60s, the decades that saw women who had been perfectly capable of running machinery during the war, remember Rosie the Riveter, return to the home to do cooking, cleaning, and child raising. That meant that at that time, dads didn't have a big father role, especially in raising girls. My dad tried to teach me how to throw a softball once, and he was insistent we use nothing but the Queen's English, but his influence on the lives of my sister and I was pretty limited. That was in due a large part to the norms of the time, but also to the fact that my mother was a bit of a strange camper who liked being the center of the family's attention. She wasn't happy if he paid too much attention to us. And you know the saying, if mama ain't happy, ain't no one happy. Sorry for the language, Dad. Consequently, we didn't get a lot of affection from our dad, although we did love him dearly. Let's turn to the next generation of dads, the families that were formed by my friends and I. There was some change, but not a whole lot. It was still a patriarchal society, as Terry Real, an internationally recognized family therapist, speaker, and author, says. Real blames the concept that we call patriarchy for the fact that many fathers were afraid to be vulnerable, nurturing, and loving with their children, even in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. Husbands were allowed in the delivery room of hospitals, but when they got home with their newborns, it was still moms who did most of the diaper changes, bathing, and feeding, although dads did chip in with some bottles and diapers, and they were definitely the guys who dumped those heavy, full diaper pails in the washing machine to spin them out. Remember the days of cloth diapers? How many times did you stab your kids? I certainly did. With those great big huge diaper pins. My husband definitely liked to have a newborn sleep on his lap and play with them when they were toddlers. But the complaint about him that I hear from my kids today was that he wasn't generally available. He was always at work. It was the patriarchal role model that he was following. Families today are typically pretty much day and night from when I was growing up and from when my kids grew up. When my kids were smaller, there began to be more divorces, so kids' lives were scheduled for time with mom and time with dad. This meant dads had to begin handling more of the emotional stuff that kids go through. When we began to see families with stepdads or moms or dads or two moms, one dad, one mom who had to be both parents, none of these options are necessarily bad things. According to an article on the American Psychological Association's webpage titled The Changing Role of the Modern Day Father, where dads used to be the traditional breadwinner and disciplinarian in the family, men have been found to be more than capable at caregiving for children, no matter what kind of physical or psychological challenges that they might face. Research shows that when a father shows affection and involvement in the family, children's social and emotional development is actually enhanced. Pia Mellody, another internationally famous author, speaker, and pioneer in the fields of trauma, codependence, and addiction recovery, says, good parenting consists of nurture, guidance, and limits. Fathers, according to Real, traditionally lean on guidance and limits and leave out nurture. He tells his clients, look, the advice that you're giving your child is great, but you know what? You haven't earned the right to be listened to. Get on your hands and knees and play horsey for a while. Have a relationship with them, and then you can give them advice. First and foremost, be with them. Make breakfast with your kid. Drive them somewhere. Go for a walk. Not face to face, but side by side. Be with them. Before the Industrial Revolution, the role of the father was to be the breadwinner and the teacher of moral values and religious education. When men started working in factories, they became more distant from their families. Then, of course, women began working outside the home more frequently, which actually opened up the opportunity for men to become more involved in caregiving. The National Institute of Child Health and Human Development found fathers who work less hours, who are also psychologically well-adjusted and adapted to adulthood, and who are married to women who work outside their home, are closer to their wives and tend to be more involved in caregiving. Father love helps children develop a sense of place in the world, supports their social, emotional, and cognitive development. And generally, children from families where both parents are involved in this way are less likely to have problems with poor behavior or substance abuse. I don't know how things are going to turn out to be when my son's girls and his peers' children are older, but I can certainly see the upside of male caregiving in the lives of their toddlers. In a Pew Research study, authors Juliana Horowitz and Kim Parker found that 60% of American society doesn't believe we put enough value on men who show emotion and who are nurturing. I have to say the blame for this falls back on my generation to a certain extent, where patriarchy was still the norm. Adults aged 65 and older are not used to seeing men show emotion and be caring. We are the ones who still look up to those tough cowboys who are always strong, always save the day, and never share their emotions. Truth is, men can be just as nurturing as women, and that's a healthy thing for all of us. I shared this particular observation with my son Seth when I stayed with his family after the birth of their second child. I told him I had never seen a man take such good care of his partner, and I really admired that. His response was that all of the couples he and his partner know have similar relationships. Frankly, I was a bit jealous, and I didn't really believe him until I met some of his friends and I saw them in action. Seth's 2-year-old daughter, Willow, is the poster child for the terrible twos. One minute she's cute and charming, and the next she's screaming no at the top of her lungs. At first, Seth was alarmed. He thought that this was unusually bad behavior, and he was beginning to think there was something wrong with her. So he Googled the terrible twos. Of course, he found out that there's nothing wrong with her. She's a completely normal, double-down, stubborn 2-year-old. I watch him pick her up in the middle of a tantrum, sit her in his lap, and tell her he knows she is having big feelings and she needs to take some deep breaths. Nothing against my own dad, but he would have just said, calm down, which a 2-year-old doesn't even understand. Parenting is oriented toward a totally new understanding of developmental stages these days. And thankfully, there's a lot of books written about it, so anybody can catch up. Seth isn't the only young man that I observed in action. One evening, Seth, Kara, and I and the girls were to meet their friends Evan and Jill in a bar. I was carrying Willow and a bag of gifts ahead of Seth and Kara, who were parking the car. Evan and Jill were at the far end of a long room, so I put Willow down because I can't carry her that far. She's pretty heavy. And Evan started walking toward the two of us. I mistakenly thought Willow would just walk with me to our table, but no, she planted herself right where I put her down. I got to the table and I heard this very loud "Nonny" at the other end of the room. Literally everybody in the bar burst out laughing. Now, most men learn to be fixers, and they would have gone and picked Willow up themselves. But Evan, who was halfway between Willow and I, knew that that might only make things worse because Willow hadn't seen him in a while, and she might not remember him from the last time she saw him. So I dropped my bags and literally ran back to Willow to pick her up. She was fine, but I felt like a big schmuck. Evan showed more emotional intelligence in that instant than I did, and I guess we gave everybody else in the bar a good laugh. This sermon came about because way back in May, on Mother's Day, before another umpteen dozen news stories hit the airwaves, the internet, and the presses, President Trump proposed the weeks between Mother's Day and Father's Day should be dedicated toward honoring normal families, meaning those with a female mom at home and a male dad who works and whatever number of biological offspring. The truth is that does not accurately describe normal families today. Today's families include same-sex parents, trans parents, fathers who don't live with their children, and fathers who stay home with their children. The number of stay-at-home dads began to increase exponentially in the early 2000s, as a matter of fact. Their partners earn good money. They want to be the primary caregiver for their children. And as a couple, they don't want somebody else looking after their kids. The most important factor in fatherhood is connection. Just as we talk about our spiritual connections here in our congregation, any combination of parenting can work for raising children. Even when the parents don't live together, as long as the parents are on the same page about emotional support, monitoring kids' activities, discipline, and appropriate expectations of childhood, like the terrible twos, and of course, being a permanent and loving presence in the child's life. Terry Real says this: I can't say this enough. The best gift we can give our kids is our own healing and recovery. Your son is not going to come out from behind his wall if you're behind yours. You can't ask somebody to do what you're not doing. And if you do it, that will speak volumes more than whatever you tell them. So you be open. Talk about it. They are old enough. Talk about your childhood. Talk about your relationship with your father. Although fathers are not required to be in charge of their children's religious education as they were in the 1800s, that doesn't mean that they can't have an influence on their children's spiritual development. Seth and his father peers take their kids out in nature a lot. They walk dogs, they camp, they share music, they read books aloud. They share what they know about meditation and tools for handling emotions. Eventually, because they have strong connections to their children and strong feelings about being fathers, they will also share their ideas about the big questions in life. Why are we here? Where did we come from? What happens to us when we die? Fathering is not a practice that is limited to a few narrowly defined individuals. My late husband taught my oldest granddaughter to fish. Sometimes a neighbor helps father a child. Sometimes it's an officially assigned godfather or a big brother. I have a friend who began as a big brother to a 12-year-old 22 years ago, and he still talks to his little brother almost every day. What's important is that we all step up if and when we are needed. We also all need to remember, whatever we do, whatever we have done as parents, we were the best we could be with the tools that we had at the time. And as we add to our toolbox, we will do better. No child who has a positive relationship with an adult should look back and judge whether the relationship was perfect or not. It might not have been perfect or what they thought they needed at the time, but it was commitment and love freely given, and it deserves to be graciously received. Many New Age dads are more involved in their children's lives today, but they don't just pack diapers and fold laundry. They allow themselves to be more vulnerable and more connected. They are rejecting the concept of patriarchy, and that is wonderful for everyone concerned. As Melody says, good parenting consists of nurture, guidance, and limits. Sometimes, for some dads, the nurturing is a little more work. For those whose dad was not completely New Age, he's still your dad, and he's still doing the best he can. So be it, and blessed be. And our second hymn is, I think Patty's got it up.
32.
32, right. I had the order.
Now thank we all our God with hearts and hands and voices, who wondrous things have done, in whom this world rejoices, who from our parents' arms has blessed us on our way with countless gifts and love, and still is ours today.
Oops.
Our closing words today come to us from Carrie Holt-Hurt. Love holds you. Love bears witness to all your inherent dignity and worthiness. It witnesses how you try, succeed, and fail, and it does not flinch. Love will not let you go. Love holds all of us. And will you join me in the words for extinguishing the chalice? We extinguish this chalice, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Enjoy your potluck.
I used to
See you in
fall
July.
in, huh?
I'm coming for the dinner in July.
Oh, good.
Have announcements first.
Oh, yes. I always forget announcements. Sorry.
Yes, I wanted to say that next Sunday will be our last formal Sunday service, and we are going to have a flower ceremony if you wanted to bring a flower. The week after that, June 29th, starts our summer programs. We have 2 openings if anybody would like. If you want to look back in the narthex, we have a sign-in sheet there. We have 2 Sundays open for the summer if you're interested in sharing a program.
And as a reminder about the dinner, and I'm glad you're going to be here, Donna. We're all looking forward to seeing you.
I'm looking forward to it too.
Don't forget, I need your meal choices.
I will give you that today.
I wanted to remind everyone, July 23rd on the Wednesday will be our dinner at LaSalle Yacht Club. We're honoring our speakers. It's a wonderful opportunity to take moment to thank them for all that they've done for us. And we have our own members who will be speaking about each of the speakers. So just remember, I need your RSVPs and your meal choice. Anybody have any questions, give me a buzz or email or call or text.
Okay, I'm just gonna do the last line. Yes, my heart belongs to Daddy, so I say it couldn't be bad. Yes, my heart belongs to Daddy. Da, 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 da. So I want to warn you, laddie, though I know you're perfectly swell.